Hey guys, Eddie Case here again, down in the basement. We just started yesterday. Making this video today to talk more about those things overhead, the obstacles overhead, and the way that we hide them generally is going to be inside soffits. And you hear me talk about soffits all the time. They're a basement remodeler's best friend because it allows us to hide anything that's overhead and make it look professional. Today's video, I mean, I've talked about soffits in so many other of my videos, but this one's unique because the soffit's actually going to be 1/2 side of the basement. We're going from 14 to 16 feet in width. So in effect, I'm building a ceiling on this side of the basement. I'm going to lower the entire ceiling from wall to wall, from the exterior wall to one of our interior walls. And that span behind me there is like 14 to 16 feet wide in different areas. So yes, I'm building a ceiling, but we're using soffit building techniques to get it perfectly level and to knock it out quickly. All right, so I'm going to spin the camera around here, talk about what's going on here, how the guys are getting this level, how we got our lines, snapped our lines so that we knew that after we build this soffit monstrosity, is really what it is, it would be perfectly beeline level. So let's talk about that. Okay, so what you see these guys doing right now is they're putting the banding around the wall, where they're building the edge of the soffit. The 2x4 that they just nailed up there is actually going to receive our crossover pieces. And if I pan the camera around here, you can see up here that top piece of lumber, and you can see it continue there, goes the whole way down the basement here. I'm following it down here. You can see it right up there. It's a 2x4 flatways, and that's going to continue right across, right over here to this soffit ladder that we put up here. Let me just jump on the other side of it and I'll show you what that soffit ladder looks like. That's the soffit ladder right there that we nailed on that side of the beam. There's a piece of steel behind it. Our ceiling is going to connect from that banding that we put in over the top of the window over there. That piece of 2x4 right there. Our crossover pieces are going to be 16 feet from that 2x4 over the window right over here to this ladder. This soffit ladder right here. All right, now that soffit ladder is at the same elevation, it's at the same height. The bottom of that ladder is at the same height as that banding that we put around the entire perimeter. That stuff going right across the wall there above the window is exactly the same as the bottom of this soffit ladder. So how do we determine that plane, that level? Well, we built a ladder to start off. We built that ladder, we nailed it up there, and we measured from the bottom of the ladder to a laser line. All right, so we used our laser to band this around so that we knew that the bottom of the soffit would be perfectly straight. And this may sound confusing, and maybe it is, but this is how we have to do it. We use a laser because this room is 50 feet long from this wall here all the way down to that wall down there. It's 50 feet long. So all of this banding that we just put up there had to be perfectly level the whole way around and back around 50 feet. Comes around and goes right to the bottom of that soffit ladder, right up to the bottom of that banding again. And you can see right there on the end, there's a chalk line there. All right, and that chalk line we snapped the whole way around. And we got that chalk line up there perfectly level by using our laser. So the first thing we're doing is we're banding this entire room, and then we're going to use our crossover pieces, which I show you in other videos, how we cross a soffit over on the bottom. Now, for the reason that we're doing this, if you look overhead here, you can see we've got 2 duct trunks here, a little bit of a space, 2 more duct trunks, and then we've got 5 3-inch pieces of PVC that run the whole way down to that wall down there. All right, and pretty much the bottom of those pipes, the bottom of the ductwork is all the same height. So we're going to build our ceiling in here to pass underneath all of that stuff there. And then when we get back out here where the ceiling goes back up, we still have a ton of obstacles. We got more 3-inch pipes up there. We've got a big band of structured speaker wiring. We've got dryer vent lines. We've got central vac lines. There's just so much up in here that it doesn't really pay us to go back up to a high ceiling in that area. So to avoid all that mess, we're just going to bring the ceiling straight across all the way over to this wall, which borders a bedroom, and then back out to our exterior wall. And this room right here, from the bedroom wall to the exterior wall right here, is 14 feet wide. So we're going to be building a 14-foot wide soffit on this end of the room. And up this end of the room, once we get past this corner right here, the last like 12 feet is going to be 16 feet across. Okay, so in effect, we're building a ceiling, a perfectly level ceiling, but we're using soffit building techniques. We're still using our laser to determine a perfect chalk line, to snap a perfectly level chalk line. We've used our laser to set up the snapping of that line. And I go through that much more in my basement framing series over at the Basement Finishing University. Way too much to talk about here in this 10-minute video, but just know that I'm using a laser and it's really simple to do, and the laser is really inexpensive. I have a link to it below in the description of this video if you're interested in purchasing that laser. It's a Hue-Par laser. It shoots it's a rotating laser as well. It shoots a perfectly vertical and horizontal line anywhere you want it in your basement to give you perfectly level soffits, all right? So just know we're using a Hue-Par laser to do that. Okay, so once we get the rest of the perimeter banding around, the whole perimeter, and here you can see they're putting the last piece up right now to a chalk line up this end. The bottom of that 2x4 they're putting on there is right on a red chalk line, which again matches up with that soffit ladder that we talked about at the beginning of this video. And they're just going to nail that to the chalk line on each 2x4 going across.
Up a little bit, Michael.
More? Good. All right, at each 2x4 in the wall, they put a nail, and they're going to nail that on there. Once they finish the perimeter band the whole way around, we know we'll have a perfectly level band going around. Then all we have to do is connect the dots. We just go from this band over here across to this band on the exterior wall with our crossover pieces. And we know that the ceiling has to be D-line laser level, okay? So we're going to finish that up, and then what we're going to do is get the dimensions between the two walls for all of our crossover pieces. We'll cut those and we'll start to install them. And once we start to install the crossover pieces, I'll turn the camera back on and we'll take a look at what we've created here. But this is one hell of a soffit, all right? 50 feet long, almost, a little bit less, but like 46, 47 feet long, 14 to 16 feet wide, and it's going to be laser beeline perfectly level in this room. So we're knocking out basically a whole half of a basement's worth of obstacles in one soffit. So I figured, you know, I'm kind of running out of things to talk about with framing, so whenever we get into something interesting that's a little bit out of the ordinary, I'll keep making this type of video, because you might have this exact type of obstacle, the same scenario in your basement, and you're just wondering, what the heck am I going to do to hide all this stuff and make it look good? Other than put a drop ceiling in, which I can't even imagine putting a drop ceiling in. They're so outdated and, in my opinion, so basement-y. All right, I don't want it to look like a basement, but the minute you put a drop ceiling in, it looks like a basement. All right, we're building lower levels of the house. That's my company's thing. We built a lower level of the house, just like your first floor or your second floor. You know, granted, the ceiling scape, which is what I call it, is different in the basement because it has different elevations. It's up and down. But the rest of our projects look just like the rest of the house, with all the recessed lights and all the, you know, exact trim and doors as we have upstairs. So let us get set up here. We'll finish up the banding, and then we'll start to install our crossover pieces. And when we start to do that, I'll turn the camera back on and show you us putting a couple of these in here every 2 foot, and how we're going to complete this this monstrosity of a soffit. Okay, guys, we're going to start putting our crossover pieces on. I got one on the sawhorses here. These all measured on what, 168 and an eighth?
All of them.
All of them. We're running from the outside wall here. Our banding up here that we put on is shot the whole way around to our chalk line. I've laid it out every 2 foot the whole way down the basement for 50 feet. So we're going to go ahead and put one up here And I'm also going to show you how I'm going to support this, because you're probably thinking, well, how can you span 14 feet with a 2x4? Won't it sag? And the answer is yes, it will. But I'm going to show you how we're going to beef this up, that you can do chin-ups on it. And I'm going to have one of our guys do a couple pull-ups on it then when we're done, just to show you how strong it is. So we'll be back in a couple minutes. All right, so here we're going to put this first one up here for you. I cut them a little snug. You don't want them to be too loose. It's easier to nail them if they're a little bit tight. I'm just going to toe nail it in on each side. And the guy on the other side is going to do his. Okay? All right, so as you can see here, it's floppy. All right, it would never hold drywall up. We're going to support this every 4 feet with hanger brackets, and I'm going to show you what that looks like when we're done, but it's not going to be flopping like that. We'll be able to do a chin up on that after I support this. All right, so we're going to run down through here and do the exact same thing we just did here, like 13 more times. We'll turn the camera back on and we'll show you what the finished soffit looks like. Okay, so we're not quite done going across here yet, but you can see the skeletal structure up here. You got 14 feet across this room. We still got about another 4 to put on down there, but let me shoot the camera down the whole way here. You can see the size of the structure we're building here. 14 feet across right here. Now you can see that, I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but they are smiling a little bit at us right now because we have not strengthened up the center yet. All right, so they're still sagging in the middle, but what you can see we're doing here is we've got these 2x4s that we've got going down like 4 foot, 4.5 feet, 4.5 feet, wherever we could get it up in between the ductwork. And then we're going to hang that board that's running perpendicular. We're going to hang that off of the floor joists up inside there. All right, and what that'll do, it'll pull the smile out of it, the sag out of the middle, and give us very short spans in between, no more than 4.5 feet in between those boards. All right, so the ends are nailed, and then we'll be here at 4.5 feet roughly, and then 4.5 more feet we'll have another hanger area, and then we're back to the wall again, nailed tight. All right, so that'll take the sag out of it and make the ceiling as stiff as you'd ever want it to be. Now up the end down here, we're almost done. We've got 3 more to put up. All right, and we turned the corner here. You can see we're going back to that soffit ladder I showed you at the beginning of the video. That's where we started everything. And these last couple here that are going across are almost 16 feet. All right, you can see how it comes around the corner there. We're 14 feet over here, we're 16 feet right here. And we're going to continue with these hanger brackets here that are sticking out on the end here. We'll slide these across the last couple once we put them in. And once we have all of our crossovers in, we'll go ahead and we'll start to hang with the hanger brackets the center of those 2 runs of stiff backs that we have up there. One here, one here. We'll hang the whole thing at one time and make sure we're beeline straight. Going across the middle, we'll use the laser and we'll double check it with our tape and make sure we have the same dimension to the bottom, and we'll have a perfectly flat level ceiling. Okay, so we're just finishing up supporting those long pieces of 2x4 that we slid up in there with our hanger blocks. And you can see a hanger block right there. It's nailed into the side of one of our crossover pieces. And then up inside there, right up in there, you can see where my 2 nails are going into the floor joist. And that's how we supported it. Now, John, get your tape measure and put it up under here once. I'll show them how we're reading the laser.
All right.
So coming off of our banding that we did around the edge at the very beginning of the video, when we put our banding the whole way around the perimeter, if we drop down to the laser, we can see that we're right around 31 3/8 right there. So out here in the middle, before we shoot our hanger brackets in, we test the laser out here as well, and we find 31, and what is it?
This is 31 1/4.
31 1/4. We're within 1/8 of an inch out in the middle, so we know we can go ahead and shoot our hanger block right there. That takes the sag out of the middle of all of the crossovers, and these are 14 feet wide. Now, I don't know how well the camera's picking this up, but if you look across there, that is beeline perfectly straight. All right, we hung both of our long pieces of lumber that we slid up in there. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 spots on that one, and then a couple more on the end down there. All right, so anywhere we could get lumber up in there, like right here, we have another one up in there. And any place we can get it in there, we did the laser trick with our tape measure. We pushed it up until we got the same measurement with the laser on our tape, and we fastened it. And you can see everything is just beeline perfect up there. All right, so we created a ceiling, really, or a soffit, whatever you want to call it, that starts at 16 foot up this end and reduces down to 14 feet the rest of the way down the basement. And we hid all the ductwork, 2 sets of it, all those 3-inch PVC vent pipes that were over there against the wall, and up in here we just had a plethora of stuff up in here. All right, we had dryer ductwork, we had structured wiring, we had cabling, we had all kinds of air conditioning dampener motors up here. You can see down here all these little boxes right here. These all stuck down from the bottom of the floor joist about 2.5, 3 inches. There's one there. There's one there. There's one up in there. There's another one there. Another one on the end here. Okay, so instead of going back up at the ceiling like I normally would, I just made the entire ceiling one level, and it worked out to be just under 8 feet. These had 9-foot ceilings down here. We lost about a foot lower in the ceiling, but we still have about an 8-foot ceiling, and it really looks nice. So that's a quick lesson on how to build a really extra wide soffit, or if you have a room where you want to lower a ceiling, now you know how to do it. You know, you run your banding around first, and then do your crossovers, and then hang your crossovers with your hanger brackets using a laser. All right, so that does it for this ceiling here today. Again, I'm just trying to bring you specific framing techniques that we've been using on our projects. You know, anybody can build walls. Pretty much anybody can just build basement walls, but to finish what's overhead, that's where the technique comes in. That's what separates the men from the boys. That's what separates a professional basement finishing company from maybe your average remodeler who doesn't do a lot of this work, because 95% of the guys that would have attempted this, they would have put a drop ceiling up here, guaranteed, and just would have hit it all up there with hanger wires, grid work, and drop ceiling panels. But my company doesn't do any drop ceilings. We figure out how to hide everything using framing, 2x4 framing, and that way we have a drywall ceiling. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys, I was telling you how strong this will be when we were done, so I'm going to let my boy here jump up there and do a chin up on there just to show you how strong this is. Look at that. It's not even moving. Come on, military man. Okay, I only got 2 out of them. Can somebody at least give me 10? All right, so you can see how strong that is. Michael weighs about 200 pounds, and it was barely even flexing. And you know we're going to have drywall up there. It's going to be glued and screwed, and that's going to mend it all together as well. So in my opinion, in my professional opinion, that is one secure, forever level ceiling. Hey guys, Eddie Case back down on that basement where we just built that enormous soffit. I brought the camera back down here today to show you some of the other things that we did with this soffit. Basically, this becomes one hell of a nice chase above you to run all of your wires, home runs to your panel box, structured wiring, and a host of other stuff that you want to get from one end of the basement to the other before you drywall. So I'm going to spin the camera around. We'll take a look at the ceiling, 100% done with the lights in it, and that'll just kind of cap off this video on this large soffit, or really you could call this a ceiling, but I'm going to still call it a soffit because in my book that's what it is. So let's take one last look at this thing. Okay, so we're panning up this large ceiling one last time, and you can see now we do have the lights in, and you can look down this row of lights. We've got them all lined up so that they're in a beeline straight, and we've got another row over here where we could get them starting up in this corner here the whole way down through. And just remember all those obstacles that we had up in there. We had that fan that went to the, I guess, the gen range hood upstairs, the exhaust hood for the stove. We had 5 3-inch vent lines that were coming the whole way down this 50-foot run from the furnaces. There's 2 furnaces down there. They are all the vent lines for the furnaces and the water heaters. So we had all that up in there. All the ductwork's up in there, 2 sets of ductwork. And if you look up there now, you can see all of the structured wiring. You can see this big pack of different colored wires here, green, orange, white wires. These are all speaker wires. They're all running up to this end and across and down into a structured wire set up here where they're going to have a TV on this front wall, and this is all for their speaker system and the electric and whatnot for all that. All right, so all the structure wiring's in there, and that soffit made the perfect chase for all that. You can see you didn't have to staple anything up there. You could just pull those wires across and let them rest on top of the crossover pieces that we put up there. So it makes an excellent chase for all of your wires. We also have our feed up there for our HVAC. You can see up there, I buy these at Home Depot. They're called Speedy Boots. I order them offline because they don't carry them in Home Depot. I have to get them offline, so I'll buy them online and have them delivered to the job. But they make the HVAC work so easy. They have the little spreaders on them, just like the recessed lights. Here's a recessed light. You can slide that light back and forth on these 2 guide poles here that spread apart, spreaders. Exact same thing over here. You can shift that Speedy Boot HVAC feed grate left to right, wherever you want it. And it's just 4 nails. Just tack them in there just like a recessed light and you're ready to go. All you have to do then is come to the other side and hook up your 6-inch flex duct and then tap into your feed trunk. All right, so we have a bunch of them down here. I think we have upwards of 5 feeds down here. There's another one right here in the middle. And up this end, we have a 3rd one. So we actually got 3 feeds, 6-inch feeds, in this almost 50-foot long room. But I do have to say, that's a pretty impressive soffit. It's the mega soffit. It's the mega soffit, baby. I mean, if you can build this soffit, you can build any soffit. And again, you might consider this a ceiling. A lot of guys would say, well, you just build a ceiling, but we use the same techniques we use when we build our soffits, so it's a soffit to me. So there's one big soffit there. Over here we had an extension off of this big soffit going across perpendicular here with 3 more lights in it. All right, and the reason that we built this soffit off of this wall was because we had central vacuum lines up in there that we didn't want to cut and reroute and redo the wiring for, so we just housed that in a nice clean crisp soffit. Down here on this long wall at the base of the steps, we have another soffit that's only about 10 inches off the wall. We've got the, it looks like the bathroom fan vent up in there. That's that chrome looking flex line up there. That's our exhaust fan, and that runs the whole way down to the bathroom, which is about 20 feet down there. And one more soffit down here, right outside the bathroom door. You can see this one comes down and turns across here, and then we've got this little soffit ceiling right here with a light in the middle. The reason we did that is we had another one of those HVAC boost fans up in there that was sticking down below the floor joist, so we just killed 2 birds with 1 stone there. We got a light in the ceiling there, and we hid that, and also our flex duct you can see coming across there. That big piece of 6-inch flex duct that comes around and becomes our feed in our bathroom ceiling up in here. Okay, so that's how we had to get that in there. That was a long way around there, but that little soffit right there also hid the corner of that flex duct and that fan. Okay, so there was the reason for all of our soffits down here. Now in this spare room right here, we had a couple obstacles that we used what we call double banding framing. Right here we had a power duct damper up there. That was the electric box for it that stuck down below the floor joist about 2 inches. So what we did was we crossed over the entire ceiling with 2x4s that we doubled up. And when you double up a 2x4, that brings you down 3 inches. So we just went from one side of the room all the way over to the other side, even though we only needed to hide one small obstacle in the middle. Okay, but what that did was it gave us a nice clean break off of the ceiling. It looks good to the eye all the way left to right. Okay, we drop down 3 inches. The drywall will go across the upper ceiling, then it'll drop down 3 inches and go back to the wall, nice and clean and crisp, side to side. We did the same thing over here on this end of the room. See here again, we doubled up 2x4s. We can pan up there. We can take a look at that. You know, we got two 2x4s in the front and 2 in the back. And they run from this side of the spare room to the other side. And the reason for those was we had a 2-inch capped vent line up there that stuck below the floor joist. And just because of that one obstacle that we just could not get up in any higher than the plane of the floor joist, we were forced to do another set of those 2x4s that drop us down 3 inches. And that's called banding. That's double banding. Anytime you go across the bottom of your floor joist to get below an obstacle like that, it's called banding framing. And since we doubled it, that's double banding, and that'll bring you down 3 inches. And then right back out into our big area again here. So that was the madness for all of our soffits and how we hit all the obstacles on this job. It's quite a bit of framing. It's quite a bit of overhead framing on this project, but it's going to be so nice when it's done with all the recessed lights, as opposed drop ceiling, which just looks like a damn basement, and I can't stand them. I mean, there are folks out there that like them. Personally, I just think they look too damn basementy. And my projects, when they're done, don't look like basements. They look like lower levels of the house. And that's really my company's thing. We give you a lower level of the home, just like upstairs, with drywall ceilings, recessed lights, and none of that drop ceiling crap that I'm so opposed to. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this soffit video. I know I didn't show you everything that I did to build this structure overhead here and these other soffits that we just talked about, but I do show you how to do it in complete detail over at the Basement Finishing University. If you're interested in purchasing my course, the BFU 2.0, Basement Finishing University 2.0, I've got some tremendous amounts of framing videos in there that show you not only how to frame the walls in any situation, but how to hide everything overhead in these soffits that we're talking about in this video. So you might want to check that out. I got a link to that course in the description below this video. Again, guys, I'm Eddie Case. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it, and I will see you in the next video.